All right, so here we have a DAO that we can use to implement some high-level functions, some use cases that are useful in terms of the more low-level generic API that mongoose models gives us. Also, it's a good practice to wrap this DAO with a service, right? So the DAO is what implements the data layer, right? And it deals with all the concerns of having to deal with CRUDing and storing and retrieving data from a permanent storage in an efficient manner. We usually want to wrap this data layer, right, in terms of something a little more high level that might take into account some business rules, some that we might want to implement some something idiosyncratic rules about the particular application that we're building. So the DAO doesn't know about any of those things. It knows only just how to store and retrieve data, right, from using the low-level permanent storage, right? But the business rules, that we implement in a service layer, might implement some of these, relationships between multiple parts of the application. So let's in a service, let's create a quiz service. Notice that we had already started implementing the quizzes service. But it was implemented using a synchronous API, right? Because our original implementation was to interact with and manipulate an array of quizzes that was hard-coded here as a file. So we're going to replace this, right? So instead of implementing this find all quizzes in terms of this synchronous implementation, what we're going to do is that we're going to remove that and instead implement it in terms of the DAO. Right, so let's load the DAO. So we'll say const the quizzes DAO. So we're going to go up one and then down to the DAOs, and here's the quizzes DAO. Once we have the DAOs, we can rewrite our services endpoints here. We can instead of using this hard-coded array, we can use the DAO. Right, we can say quizzes dot find all quizzes. It's going to use the find quizzes DAO dot find all quizzes, right? And the find quiz by ID, right? Again, it will use the DAO. So quizzes find quizzes DAO dot find quiz by ID. Well, it'll return whatever the DAO returns, right? Again, from the database. What are these going to return? They're going to return probably promises, right? That are being returned by the low-level implementations of the mongoose models. Now, I believe we've never actually implemented these folks, right? So let's go in there, find all quizzes, and notice that we had just left it the placeholder. So the implementation for this is really easy, right? It's just using the quizzes model and doing find, right? So again, we are wrapping a low-level mongoose operation, right? That is specific to Mongo database, right? And we're wrapping it into a higher level function, right, that is specific to our particular domain. Quiz by ID, right, same thing. This will be something quizzes model.find, and there is a find by ID. We can use that and then provide the quiz ID. Okay, and create quizzes. Even though students might not do that, it's easy to implement. We can just say quizzes model.create and then pass in the quiz object. So there, so we've implemented it. And now the service layer, right, can use these. We have fully substituted, right, the implementation of the hard-coded array. Now is retrieving it from a dynamic database storing quizzes in Mongo.